Hello and welcome to your Recipe for Financial Success with me, Emma, and my colleagues Becky and Julie.
In each episode, we'll be bringing you a list of ingredients to help you cook up a storm and master methods to finesse your finances. We'll be helping you expand your repertoire and hopefully teach you a few new skills along the way.
So, clear the counters and get your mixing bowls ready for today's recipe. Let's get started. I have to admit, I'm feeling quite in the festive spirit now after decorating the office ready for Christmas.
I know everyone says we're too early, but it's never too early for Christmas, is it?
I love putting the lights on the tree. I hope you don't mind that I always do that job.
That is the worst bit of it.
But there is that whole thing, tinsel or no tinsel, and we are really split on this in the office.
No tinsel.
Tinsel. Definitely tinsel.
Never.
2 out of 3. You've outvoted, Emma.
Well, you're not coming to my house, that's all I'm saying.
Oh.
You ruined all our fun. So today we're going to be peeling back the truth about store cards. And today it's going to be you, Becky. You're on the hot seat. We're going to be asking you all the questions. I hope you're ready.
I don't know if I am, but I'll do my very best.
So start off, Becky, by telling us a little bit about what store cards are.
Store cards are quite similar to credit cards. So they're the same but different. So I'll start by telling you a really brief overview about what credit cards are, and then we'll drill down more into what store cards are. So with a credit card, you use it and essentially you buy things on credit, which means that you haven't actually paid any money for it yet. You've almost like borrowed the money to buy whatever it is that you're buying. So then at the end of the month, all of your transactions that you've put on your credit card for that month gets added up, and that's when you receive your credit card bill or your credit card statement. And at that point, you then need to pay back all of the money that you've put on your credit card in that month, in that time period, whatever that statement is. If you don't make the full payment, the credit card company or provider or whoever it may be can then charge you interest on the amount that you've borrowed or the amount of credit that you have on the card that you haven't paid back. So that's a brief overview of what a credit card is and how a credit card works. If we're talking more about store cards,
I think we'll have another week when we can do credit cards a bit more detail, Becky.
I think we might need another week because this is going to be detailed.
Let's be honest, you're loving it over there, aren't you? Answering the questions.
I don't know if I am, but we'll see how we get on. So with a store card, it's basically the same as a credit card, but you can only use it in one high street chain or a group of stores that are perhaps owned by the same company. So I'm guessing that you've all heard the saying, buy now, pay later.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah, there's signs up in most shops that you go in saying that, aren't there?
So that is essentially a symbol of a store card. You can buy now and you can pay later. You can put it on this credit card, which is also a store card, and then you pay for it in X amount of months' time or weeks' time or whatever. So one thing about a store card to remember is that you have to be at least 18 to have one, and you have to undergo a credit check before they will hand over this card to you, this piece of plastic to you. The interesting thing about a credit check with a store card, though, is that you don't have to have any credit history. So you could turn in the store on your 18th birthday, ask about a store card if they have one going at the time, and although they will do a credit check on you, you don't have to have any sort of credit history to be handed over the store card.
So I'm guessing they'd only stop you if you were had loads of debt and a CCJ and things like that, and but if you didn't have any history at all, which
they would let you have one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I thought so too. I didn't know that until I was digging into the depths of store cards. So the other important thing to remember about a store card is that it usually has a higher interest rate than a normal credit card. So when I say a normal credit card, I mean the credit card that your bank may offer you or another place may offer you. So, and we're going to come back to interest rates in a little while when we talk about them more.
So what's something good about a store card, Becky?
there are a few things that are good about store cards. So once you sign up, you're normally, and I say normally quite loosely, you're normally offered vouchers or discounts. So they might say, oh, if you sign up for our store card today, we'll give you 10% off any purchases that you make in store for the next 3 months. That's probably quite a standard one that most of you will probably be quite familiar with. They might also say, oh, if you sign up today, we'll give you free delivery if you buy anything online, which is quite handy. I know I just brought something off Photobox and I was horrified at the postage costs. So if they did a store card, it would be a well worth
You'd be signing up.
perk. Yeah. So that's some of the good things about it.
Why would you not have a store card? Because I mean, I used to have a Debenhams store card, and I think I used to get like 10% off or 5% off every time I used it, and 15% off in the coffee shop, and all those kind of things. So all really good things. Why would you not have a store card? What's not to like?
So one of the main reasons to be very cautious about store cards is the interest rates are usually higher than they would be on a normal credit card. So an interest rate, when you're talking about credit cards, an interest rate is almost sort of like the cost that you will pay to have the credit, to make the purchases on the credit card. But like I said, I am going to come on to that in a little while. You're jumping the gun ever so slightly, Julie.
Oh, sorry, oops.
Another reason that they're perhaps not as good as a normal credit card is that you can only use them in certain stores or certain places, whereas with a normal credit card you can go into pretty much anywhere and they will let you use them. The other thing to be very mindful of with store cards is that they're often sold or given to you by sales assistants who may not fully understand what they're telling you. So, you can have this store card today. It's really great. We can give you 20% off on your purchase today, but they might not really fully understand the implications of what they're telling you to sign up for.
That's a really good point, Becky, actually. Yeah, definitely.
It's very scary when you think about it.
Especially when you've said about the credit checks and you don't really have to have any credit. Someone buying or taking out that card isn't necessarily going to know anything, and if someone's selling it to them that knows very little as well, that sounds a bit risky. Really.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Definitely.
The other thing, it's not really a reason to be careful of them, but something as well to be mindful of is that they are different to loyalty cards. So a store card is different to your Nectar card that you might have from Sainsbury's, or your club card that you might have from Tesco's, for example. They are a completely different kettle of fish. It's not at all the same thing. So if you're not sure at all, then it's worth asking the question. Make sure that you're not signing up for anything that you're not 100% sure about.
Okay, that sounds good so far. What else can you tell us, Becky?
So if we now talk about the charges and the costs of using the store cards.
This is where the maths is going to come in.
This is where the maths is going to come in, yes. So you may need to turn the volume up. So when you're looking at the interest rate on your store card, you need to be looking at the annual percentage rate, which is usually abbreviated to the APR. And like I touched on earlier, this is the cost of borrowing. An example at the minute, so at the time of recording this podcast, there's a New Look store card on offer, and that has an APR of 28.9%. The minimum amount you can repay each month on the New Look card is actually the greater of 3.65% of the balance, or £3.65 each month. So for my example of £100 spend on the card, it doesn't make any difference because the figures are going to be exactly the same. For the example that I'm now going to give you, however, the minimum amount I'm going to pay off is £5 a month. So if we pay off £5 each month from our £100 spend as the minimum, it's going to take me a total of 27 months to clear the debt off the card. And not only that, I'm going to end up paying, once the interest has all been added, £132 in total. And that's not forgetting that the rate on the card is variable. So that £132 in total assumes that the rate is going to stay at 28.9% throughout those 27 months, and it's not going to increase, because if it increases, I'm going to end up paying more than that. But on the plus side, with the New Look card, if you sign up, you do get access to special offers and discounts and even special birthday treats. So the takeaway message is just to remember the potential cost that you may incur of having these.
And I guess if you pay £30 in interest, you could get more than that back in benefits. So depending on how you use the card, it might be worthwhile.
Exactly, yes. It's sort of like with anything. Weigh up the pros and cons and the costs of what you're taking out.
So what happens if you take out a store card and you really can't keep up the repayments? I mean, what, is it just going to keep building up and building up? Is there anything you can do about that?
Well, there are a couple of things you can do, and it does depend a lot on the individual circumstances. So the first thing, you can sometimes contact the credit card provider and you can ask them for a payment holiday.
I'm guessing at the moment with the COVID situation that this is probably something that is more likely to be possible.
Yes, definitely. So a payment holiday is basically where they'll say, we won't badger you for any money for X amount of time. And that will, in theory, give you, as the borrower, a chance to collect the money up that you need to then repay that debt, repay what you've borrowed. Okay, so that's the first option. The second option, if you've had your payment holiday and you think, oh no, I can't see a way out of this, contact the lender and speak to them and explain the situation. They are human, believe it or not. They will still, at the end of the day, they do still want their money from you. They're human, but they're not that nice. They may be willing to extend any payment terms, and they sometimes may even reduce the interest rates that they've charged you. So they want to get as much from you as they can, but they are willing to be flexible to an extent.
I will just add in here, Becky, I have known someone in the past that's had a store card and they couldn't afford the repayments, and they contacted the provider in advance when they knew they weren't going to be able to repay the card, and they were actually told, that's fine, go away and come back when you've missed your payment, we don't want to know until afterwards. So I think sometimes they aren't particularly helpful in advance. You have to wait until you're in a problem, which obviously most people would like to avoid, but obviously they won't do anything until you're in the problem. So
yes, it's not
a
nice situation to be in. When we're talking about store cards, there's store cards, as I've already spoken about, and then there's also store credit cards.
This sounds like it's going to make it confusing.
I did warn you at the start. So a store credit card, they are actually more common than just store cards. A store credit card, so you may have seen them in John Lewis. I think Sainsbury's offer one. I think even Marks and Spencer's offer one as well. So a store credit card is more similar to a normal credit card, which again we're going to touch on in more detail another time. But for today, I'm going to talk to you about the Debenhams store credit card.
Ooh, I had a Debenhams store card, but it wasn't a credit card.
So this is the updated new Debenhams store credit card. So a credit card is exactly like I told you at the start of the podcast. So it will have those features. Okay, but the Debenhams store credit card, you can use it when you shop in Debenhams. Not surprisingly, I hasten to add. And you can also use it, unlike a normal store card that we've already spoken about, you can use a Debenhams store credit card at any other location where you see the MasterCard symbol. So it doesn't just have to be used in a Debenhams store.
So it's a bit confusing that they call it a store credit card when actually you can use it anywhere.
Yes, it is. And I actually got very excited when I was researching for this podcast. because I thought, oh, there's a Debenhams store card. And then I was reading through the small print, and I was like, that's not a store card, that's a credit card. That is the difference.
Wow, that sounds really misleading.
It is, yes.
So do they not do a store card anymore?
They don't do a normal store card. You have the store credit card.
It's obviously been a few years since I had my Debenhams store card.
They're a thing of the past, I'm afraid. Well, that I could see from what I was looking at anyway.
So go on, Becky, tell us what goodies the Debenhams store credit card has.
So, on the credit card, each time you use the card, you earn points. So it's not dissimilar to your Nectar loyalty card, where you earn points, or your club card, where you earn points. So if you're a big Debenhams fan, they will give you 3 points for every £1 that you spend in Debenhams, and 1 point for every £2 that you spend on the card elsewhere.
That sounds pretty good. What do the points actually do, though?
Do points make prizes?
You're not far out. You're not far out at all. So the points, you build the points up, and then you can convert them into gift cards that you can use in store.
If only I was still a Debenhams girl.
If only. So if I spend £70 on a new set of saucepans in Debenhams on my card, and like with the New Look example, I'm going to pay off £5 per month off of my £70 balance that I've put on the card. It's going to take me a total of 17 months to clear the debt off the card, and after the interest has all been added, I'm going to end up paying £82 for my £70 saucepans. So you can see they do end up costing me slightly more than what they would have done if I had just paid for them outright. The other thing that I will add is the minimum on the Debenhams card is actually 1% of the balance, so that would actually only be 70p that I needed to pay off as a minimum each month. But for my example, I've used £5, and I've used £5 in both this example and in the New Look example, because I used a repayment calculator that is available online, so anyone can use it. It's like a credit card repayment calculator, and the minimum that I could set on that is £5. So obviously the minimums for the New Look card and the Debenhams card are actually less than the £5 on the calculator. So just for ease and for the sake of my maths, I hope you can forgive me, ladies. I used the calculator online, and the minimum that I've used is £5 each month. So I hope that covers that all off.
It does indeed, Becky. Thank you for explaining it so simply. I'm actually quite interested by the interest rate. I was expecting it to be considerably lower than the store card, and the example you gave with New Look. It's not actually that much lower.
It's not that much lower, but it is lower when you start adding the numbers up and you start putting more and more money on it. That 4% would start to snowball and make a big difference as you start spending more and more money.
It does seem excessive when you look at what the interest rates on mortgages are at the moment, though. It does seem very, very high.
Yeah, I think I may have even been you I was talking to earlier about a mortgage that had like a 1.6% interest rate on it.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're looking at 24.9. That's quite a difference.
Yeah, quite a penalty for buying a set of saucepans.
Especially at the moment when we're trying to help the economy, it does seem excessively high.
Yeah, yes it does.
So how many people actually have store cards and use them?
That is a very good question, Emma. I feel like it's one that you may have queued up for me. Do you know the answer?
Actually, I do. So, a survey has found that nearly 7.9 million people in the UK use store cards.
Wow.
But 5% of those people actually admitted they had no idea what interest rate was on the card. So that's pretty scary, seeing what the rates are at the moment.
That probably goes back to what I was saying right at the start about them being sold to the customer by people who don't really understand what they're doing.
And I have to say that next statistic you've got there, Emma, 4% said they felt pressured into signing up for them, is quite scary.
Yeah, I think that says it all about them, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's when you're committing to, there's potentially debt that you're signing up to. If you don't really understand what you're doing, that's a very dangerous game to be playing with.
And I also guess coming up to Christmas that it's a time where you might be looking to make some extra purchases and like to treat lots of different people. And if there's that added pressure by someone in a store saying, oh, how about pay for it later? You can get it now and you can pay for it later. It can obviously put people in a position that they don't want to be in future.
Definitely.
I think we've got a podcast coming up in December about Christmas saving, haven't we?
We have, yes.
I've got some right delights for you both.
Ooh.
Looking forward to that one.
So, Becky, we've talked a lot about high interest rates of store cards today, and I can see how many people get themselves into trouble with store cards. I mean, it's so easy to go in, get yourself signed up, get your 20% off, and you just not realise how quickly that interest rate or those interest rates can build up. What can you do to get yourself out of a muddle if you get yourself into one?
So we did already touch on speaking to the lender, but I think from Emma's story, that has sort of mixed success, but it's definitely always worth a try. Another thing that you can do is speak to Citizens Advice, because they can provide you with some sort of free, impartial guidance to hopefully point you on the right tracks to helping you. Another, I think this is actually really excellent, is you can speak to a charity, or, well, I say a charity, I'm going to talk to you about a charity, which is called the Step Change Charity, and they may be able to help you sort of get out of the position that you're in, and they're actually funded by banks, they're funded by the government and loan companies. So big insurance companies are the people who are funding this Step Change charity to help people that are in debt. And I think it's an excellent thing. It's run by volunteers, and they will be able to help and again provide you guidance and help to hopefully point you in the right direction with where to go.
No, that sounds really, really good. I think, people do get themselves into quite by accident, get themselves into a bit of a muddle, and it's always important to know that, the best thing to do is to go and talk to somebody and not just put those envelopes in a drawer and hope it'll go away, because without talking to someone, it won't.
No, it definitely won't. It's not a good elephant in the room to have.
No way.
So I think I have covered everything that I've definitely covered everything that I know about store cards.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Becky, for being in the hot seat today. And
Thank you very much.
I'm hoping that I won't have the opportunity on another occasion.
Well, by the sounds of it, with all these ideas you've got about Christmas savings, it might be your turn.
Oh,
Might be sooner than you think.
hadn't even thought about that. Damn, I should have kept my mouth shut there.
And with that, we've completed today's recipe. We hope you have enjoyed following along with us today and cooking yourself one recipe closer to a financially secure future.
If you'd enjoyed today's podcast, you can head over to www.recipeforfinancialsuccess.co.uk, where you can find out more information and a full list of ingredients on today's recipe.
For more hints, tips and tasters, find us on Facebook at Your Recipe for Financial Success. Thank you for listening and see you next time.